Thank you very much for listening to this week's talk on the Sedra of Vayera, and we will dedicate this learning to the speedy recovery of all of the hostages, Shalom, complete, and we also dedicate this learning to the safety and success of the soldiers of Tzahal, of the Israeli Defense Forces, in their attempts to achieve the strategies to victory in this war against evil. And the Sedra of Vayera, as always with all of the Sedras, it is live, it is real time. It has spoken to us every single year, but this year, as we are going through the national, I would say even global and personal levels of challenge brought on by this situation, we are able to really tap into the words and the ideas that can help us navigate this very, very complicated and challenging maze. And the first point that I would like to make, to focus on, as we are looking at the life of Avraham Avinu, Avraham our father, and the overall theme of the whole book of Bereshis, of Genesis, is that Ma'aseh Ovos Simon Labonim, which means that we learn from every aspect of our forefathers. That they are an ongoing tutorial in how to deal with life as we go through it, and there's also a level of prophecy that we have, that what has happened in the past to our fathers. Throughout history, we've seen there is a repetition of certain challenges that have happened to us as a nation in subsequent generations. And so looking at this learning, this absolute learning curve and tutorial, timely and timeless tutorial from Avraham Avinu. We've spoken before about the quality of chesed that Avraham is associated with. That is his motto, that is his emblem, as it were. And we see it in many different manifestations. But the one that I would like to focus on firstly in this Sedra of Vayera is his attempts, and we hear it live in a conversation with Hashem when he is pleading with Hashem to save the people of Sodom. And we see this bottomless reservoir of chesed, of love for humanity, that Avraham Avinu displays, because he is pleading on behalf of people who are not his soulmates by any stretch of the imagination. They are the polar opposite. They are beyond the pale. The people of Sodom are associated eternally with degrading, disgusting behaviors for all time. And yet Avraham Avinu is really their advocate, and pro bono. He's got absolutely nothing to gain for it. He is pleading for them, as I imagine he would plead for his nearest and dearest. So I think that we can certainly see this quality of chesed that Avram deservedly is so famous for, really on display in very, very sharp focus in the verses that describe this conversation with Hashem, which is recorded in the Sedra in chapter 18, say from verse 23. From verse 23 through to the end of the chapter, verse 33. So we have 10 pasukim, and it's not the point of this talk, but they are worth reading because Avraham's generosity of spirit, Avraham's desire to save any human being is just saturated in every single word of these 10 verses. But the point that I want to focus on is actually the very last verse, where after all his eloquent pleading, he could have won any case in any court in the world. Yet Avraham did not achieve his stated goal of asking Hashem to save the city. And the concluding verse is, and this is verse 33, Vayelech al Hashem ka'asher kilo ledaber el Avraham, and Hashem went just as he finished to speak to Avraham, for Avraham shov limkomo, and Avraham returned to his place. And the abrupt end of this conversation comes when Hashem finishes what he has to say, and then Hashem departs. And the Torah, always supremely economical and vitally important with every single word, says he returns to his place. And from this, Avraham returned to his place. We learn a very interesting halacha that I think was reflective of the way Avraham Avinu accepted the divine decree. And this concept is in contrast to Bilam Harasha, and there is a comparison in Pirkei Avot, in Ethics of Our Fathers, chapter 5, Mishnah 22, where we have the two people and their actions and their attitudes contrasted. But what happened when Bilam Harasha was not getting the answer that he wanted from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, from the Holy One, blessed be he then went with Balak, the king of Moab, to try his luck from another place. That, we have this concept sometimes that if one changes one place, one changes one's luck. So if you move, then you might get the desired result. And then Bilam tried to curse the Jewish people from several different locations. But what happened after Avraham Avinu did not get the answer that he wanted to save the people of Sodom? He returned to his place. And we learn the halacha that one tries to have a fixed place for praying, that whatever, and that is a symbol of accepting the divine decree, whatever we're asking for, and we will pour all our energy and all our sincerity into that particular prayer. But we understand that whatever Hashem does is ultimately for our good. Whether we understand it in this life, whether there's any kind of human logic that we can apply in this situation, is irrelevant. By returning to the same place and davening again, whether it's for something else, but understanding that my faith in Hashem is not dependent on getting the answer that I want. And I think that here we see that Abraham's bottomless reservoir of chesed, of love for Hashem, of love for all of humanity, as he tried to share the wisdom and the joy and the beauty of acknowledging Hashem in the world that Hashem has created, that Avraham has this really seemingly bottomless supply of both of these qualities, yet he knows if he doesn't get the answer that he wants, he still will continue on this journey of faith. He's not going to be disappointed to the extent that he will change, because sometimes the important message I think that we're learning from Avraham Avinu here, as we soul search, as we try, and I think that at the moment we have ample opportunity to do all of that, that we understand that we are still carrying on doing the right thing. We're not going to be derailed. We're not going to be demoralized. We are going to get that koach, that strength to persevere, that strength to carry on being the best people that we are, from Avraham Avinu, who returns to his place and carries on with his davening and will continue to do whatever good he can, irrespective of the answer that he gets from Hashem. And then I think we see in this tutorial of faith, and that is so applicable in our time always and especially now, that Hashem in chapter 22 of this week's Sedra of Bereshis, Genesis, this is the Akedah, and we have the concept that Avraham Avinu was tested with 10 different tests, but the word test is actually only used in connection with the Akedah. This is the first time that it is used in the Torah at this point, and it will be used subsequently, but we see in chapter 22, verse 1, that Vayehi achar hadvarim ha'ela, and it was after these things, va'elohim nisa es Avraham, and God tested Avraham. Okay, so we'll stop there. And it's interesting to note that Ramchal, Rav Moshe Chaim Lutzato, a very famous rabbi and philosopher and Kabbalist who was born in Padua in Italy in 1707 and died in Akko in Israel in 1746. He was just coming up to 40 years. And he, in his renowned famous work, Mesilas Yesharim, Pathways of the Just, says that man was created to do mitzvahs and to be tested. And this seems a little strange at first sight because we understand the first half of the purpose of creation, but why to be tested? Firstly, especially with something like the Akedah, which raises so many questions and is a concept and an event that really takes us to the limit of our understanding and makes us realize that there is a limit to our understanding because we don't understand. Such is the nature of the Akedah. But Hashem, for whose benefit is that test? Hashem clearly knows. Hashem knows everything. Hashem is not fixed in boxes of past, present, and future, so he doesn't need to find out the extent of Avraham Avinu's commitment. And really, it is something that we struggle with to understand. But I think that the concept, what we see in the test of the Akedah, and we have a clue in the words towards the end of the Akedah as to the purpose of going through this whole episode, especially arguably since it actually never happened, in terms of this was something that Avraham had to go through the motions of, but he wasn't actually required to do. But we see, and I think that the best clue to understanding the point possibly of this is if we look at the words towards the end. So that's chapter 22, and this is when the angel appears to Avraham and says, verse 12, Vayomer, and he said, Al tishlach yotcha el hanar, va'al tas lo me'uma. Do not send out your hand, cast out your hand against the lad, and do not do anything to him. Ki ata yodati, for now I know, ki yirei Elohim ota, that you fear God. You are God-fearing. So I think that what Avraham Avinu in this tutorial that speaks to us so sharply now, that as he moves from being the exemplar of chesed, he then, as he goes through the Akedah, as he proves in this test, he finds that his dedication to Hashem is going to reach new levels, because it's very possible that Avraham Avinu was a naturally outgoing, kind person. His nature was such that he really enjoyed being happy and doing good things for other people. And everything that he did up until the point of the Akedah was somehow a combined expression of that nature and of his devotion to Hashem. But with the Akedah, he moves into a higher gear, onto a higher level, when he leaves behind his natural personality, which is still going to define him and be an essential part of his life, his mission, and all the generations that follow him. But in accepting that being in awe of Hashem requires us to leave our personal logic, our personality traits, and to understand that our mission is to go in the way of Hashem. And this phrase, "now I know that you are God-fearing," is perhaps a clue as to the purpose of this final test of Avraham. And the word nes means miracle, means banner. It's also a fundamental part of the word nisoyon, which means test or challenge. And learning from Avraham Avinu and learning from the way he moves from chesed and avas Hashem and ava of everybody around him, this deep love for Hashem and all of humanity. But then he goes to the higher level of being in awe of Hashem, being and surrendering his logic, his understanding of what is right, and understanding that we follow Hashem's directions, and that is how we journey through our lives and become the best people and eternally follow in the paths of Avraham Avinu. And really concluding again, davening that the merit of Avraham Avinu and all of our fathers and mothers in Eretz Yisrael and everywhere else, that these are our most powerful weapons in the battle against the evil that we're facing on so many fronts, physical and spiritual. And please God, in the merit of all of these and all of the chesed and the mitzvahs that are being done all over the world, that please God, we should merit to see the nisim, and we should be able to together as a people unite and join avas, our intense love of Hashem and other people, with Yiras Hashem, with Yiras Elokim, with this sense of awe of Hashem, and we are then able to vanquish the evil and fulfill our mission on this world, to be a light unto all the nations and to bring goodness and beauty into this world. Thank you very much for listening, and wishing everyone Shabbat Shalom.